Picture this. You're 17, it's summer, and you're over at a friend's house. You're watching them play some game on their Xbox 360, it was probably Halo 3, and you glance down and you see an Xbox 360 game case. It simply says, Dead Space. You pick it up, you read the back of the case, and the manual you find inside of it. You think to yourself, so this game is just shooting weird zombie alien creatures with weird looking alien guns? That sounds pretty awesome. So you ask your friend if you can borrow their game for the weekend. They say, sure, just don't scratch it up. When you get home later that day, you're very excited to play this new game, so you immediately get a drink, some snacks, and you go to your room. You close the door, open the disc tray to your own 360, and pop the disc in. As you hear your 360 make all the usual weird noises it makes when it reads all your other games, you begin to see the opening logos. Then it finally happens. You see the main menu. But to your surprise, it's not like the other main menus of games you've played previously. There's no choir music like Halo, or rock music like Call of Duty. No, there's only this eerie background noise that makes you feel uncomfortable, and the menu itself showing gross monsters that you saw on the back of the game case. You very suddenly realize that this is not your usual game, and not what you thought it would be. What you're hearing me talk about was my first experience with Dead Space back when I was 17. I would go on to beat Dead Space over that weekend multiple times, and once I had to return to my friend, I'd go out and buy my own copy in order to complete the difficult task of beating the game on impossible difficulty and unlocking the military suit. Once I heard that Dead Space was getting a remake, I felt an excitement I haven't felt since having the lineup for the midnight releases of Halo and Call of Duty outside of my local Best Buy. I've now played through the remake multiple times, and as of writing this, currently have 44 hours playtime for the remake and 50 hours for the original. That is only counting the hours I have on Steam, and not the hours I spent playing on the 360. It's safe to say that Dead Space has had a massive impact on me as a gamer. I mean, I did get it tattooed on my body, after all, along with some of my other favorite games. So when I heard I'm allowed to make an open-ended creative project, I knew that I wanted to showcase my love for Dead Space. In this video, I'll present to you 3 reasons why Dead Space is one of my favorite games of all time. Generally speaking, for me to appreciate a game, it has to have a story which is interesting and understandable. This rule is rarely bent for some games I enjoy, looking at you Dark Souls, but the entire narrative of Dead Space fits so perfectly. Every aspect of Dead Space is explained within its own universe. Humans have exhausted the natural resources on Earth, but have conquered space travel. So what do? Well, they just destructively exhaust other planets for their resources, of course. You play as Isaac Clarke, a ship systems engineer on a repair mission along with 4 other characters to the USG Ishimura, a planet cracker ship, which is just a fancy way of saying it breaks planets up into smaller bits to mine them for valuable resources. The Ishimura is experiencing a complete communications blackout, and it's your job to find out why and fix it. You took this job not only because, well, the pay was probably pretty good, but your girlfriend, Senior Medical Officer Nicole Brennan, is aboard the Ishimura. So it's a 2 birds, 1 stone type of situation. You are hit by planetary debris while hailing the Ishimura and must make a crash landing within the Ishimura's landing bay. You board the ship, but are surprised when you realize that nobody is there to greet you. As you walk further into the landing bay, you are attacked by monsters famously called necromorphs. You are separated from your crew, but still remain in contact with them thanks to some super fancy advanced FaceTime device you have. From here on, you are tasked with essentially doing your job, but without pay. You fix Ishimura's variously critically failing systems while trying to figure out what could have caused the necromorph outbreak and looking for your girlfriend, Nicole. Now, the remake did make pretty big story changes from the original, and depending on who you ask, your mileage may vary as to if they were good changes or bad changes. In my opinion, all these changes were a welcome refresher and set up perfectly for a potential Dead Space 2 or 3 remake somewhere down the line. A really underappreciated aspect of Dead Space's story, though, is that even the gameplay objectives are tied within the story effortlessly. Here we can see Isaac getting rid of a barricade by engineering a makeshift bomb out of ordinary medical equipment. In most games, you'd have to wonder how your character knows how to create this bomb, but Isaac is a spaceship system engineer. You probably learned this in his first year tutorial class. There are plenty of subplots and twists to Dead Space story, mostly shown through audio and text logs, which you find throughout various areas aboard the Ishimura, which give explanations for almost every single thing that has or will eventually happen aboard the Ishimura. So if you're the type of person who needs a good explanation or rich story along with really good gameplay in order to really get immersed into a video game universe, Dead Space is the perfect game for you, as I know it was for me. I don't think there's any other way to describe the gameplay of Dead Space other than completely awesome. Have you ever had a hard time shooting those pesky zombies in the head because they have such tiny brains? No worries. In Dead Space, you simply shoot their arms and legs with weapons such as the plasma cutter, line gun, or just simply light your enemies on fire with a flamethrower. The weapons even sound different based on how much you upgrade them. The weapon diversity of Dead Space is one of the aspects which make it so satisfying, which actually sucked in the original Dead Space due to some weapons, mostly the flamethrower, not dealing enough damage to kill the weeds in your backyard. But in the remake, all weapons are fully viable, and you could probably beat the game by only using one of whatever weapon if you really wanted to. Weapons, which were already fan favorites, such as the contact beam, were given extremely satisfying new primary firing modes, and almost all of the other weapons were given new secondary fires. Finally, Kinesis got a massive upgrade, mostly to how it is in Dead Space 2, making it extremely satisfying to kill enemies with. There are very few other games where you can feel the power of your weapon when you shoot something, and with Dead Space, when you pull the trigger, you can feel the power of your weapon, which is felt more and more as you upgrade it. But if you ever get tired of using plasma, flames, or traditional bullets, don't worry. There's also the option to use necromorphs against themselves by simply shooting off their limbs and throwing them back at them using your kinesis. Or you can simply stasis them and punch them to death. But your results may vary with that approach. As we have talked about, there are many combinations of ways to dispatch your necromorph enemies, and that is the heart of Dead Space. But we've yet to talk about one of Dead Space's most famous mechanics. Once you've decided that these undead things are, well, dead enough, you can stomp on them to make sure. The stomp is how you collect your resources. Usually when you kill a necromorph, hitting it one more time after it's already dead will cause it to drop one kind of resource, usually ammo or money. Most players, including myself, choose the stomp or punch method as this saves your precious ammunition. This stomp is what most people think of when they think of Dead Space, and oh man, is it fun. That necromorph that just snuck up on you and gave you the scare of your life, get back at him by stomping on him with your space boots for however long you feel like. Whenever I need to remember what a responsive, satisfying shooter feels like that also has good audio, looking at you Apex Legends, I come back to Dead Space. The original 2008 Dead Space's environments were good for the time they were made in, but graphical limitations made it hard for them to stand the test of time. The remake, on the other hand, well, I don't think I've ever played a game so terrifyingly pretty. I don't think I'll ever be able to use that term again, so I'm glad I got to use it here. It's also not just that all the environments look pretty, it's also that they showcase a function. Remember that this is a spaceship that housed thousands of people while they did their daily work. One of the last things I want to touch on before I close this video out is the sound. The Dead Space remake won the Best Audio Design at the Horror Games Award for a reason. I mean, just listen to this. I could go on talking about Dead Space forever. I really enjoy this game, and I always come back to it when I have nothing else to play. But I hope that through watching this brief video, maybe you got the itch to slay some necromorphs aboard the USG Ishimura again, or perhaps for the first time. Thanks for taking some time out of your day to listen to me talk about my love for Dead Space.